Can you give me 5 minutes? In 5 minutes, I can make you an expert on nuclear energy.
All right, let's dive right in. Here's our roadmap. First, we'll get into the wild science of unlocking the atom. Then, we'll see how that science powers a massive atomic engine. After that, we'll weigh the pros and cons, the promise of clean energy versus the serious risks. And finally, we'll take a look at what's next for nuclear power.
Okay, first things first, let's get down to the absolute basics. I mean, how on earth does splitting a tiny, invisible atom release such an incredible amount of power?
So, the most important thing to wrap your head around is this. We're not burning anything. There's no fire, no combustion like in a regular power plant. No, we're doing something way more fundamental. We're literally splitting the core of an atom. This process is called nuclear fission. Think of it like a mousetrap that's been set. All that energy is just waiting, and we're just giving it a tiny poke to release it all.
And this is where the magic really happens, the chain reaction. It's basically a game of atomic dominoes. See, one neutron hits a uranium atom, and boom, it splits, releasing more neutrons. And what do those neutrons do? Well, they go and hit other uranium atoms. This whole thing just keeps going and going. A self-sustaining reaction that unleashes a ridiculous amount of energy with every single split.
So you might be thinking, wait a second, if this is a chain reaction, why doesn't a power plant just, explode like a bomb? And that is a great question. It really boils down to two things, control and concentration. A bomb is designed to be an out-of-control, instantaneous reaction. It uses super concentrated fuel. But a reactor, that's all about a slow, controlled burn. The fuel is much less concentrated, and the whole point is to release that energy steadily as heat, not in one big bang.
Okay, so we've got the science down. Now let's look at the hardware. How does a reactor actually work?
Believe it or not, when you strip away all the complex stuff, a nuclear power plant is really just a super high-tech way to boil water. Seriously, just like a coal plant burns coal to make heat, a nuclear plant uses that controlled atomic chain reaction as its furnace. The end goal is the same: make stuff hot.
So inside that reactor core, you've got this little trio of components working together. First, you've got the fuel rods. That's where all the action, all the fission is happening. Then you have the moderator, which is usually just water. Its job is to kind of slow down the neutrons, get them to the perfect speed for the reaction. And finally, you have the control rods. These are the brakes. They're made of stuff that just loves to absorb neutrons. So by raising or lowering them, operators can hit the gas, tap the brakes, or stop the reaction completely.
And this is how that heat gets turned into the electricity that powers your phone. That intense heat from the chain reaction, it boils water, creating a ton of high-pressure steam. That steam then gets funneled to spin a giant fan, basically, a turbine. And that turbine is hooked up to a generator. As it spins, it generates electricity. It's almost exactly like a coal or gas plant from this point on. Oh, and you know those giant cooling towers you always see? That's not pollution. It's just steam, literally water vapor, as the water gets cooled down to be used all over again.
Okay, so that's a lot of engineering. What's the point? Why go through all this trouble? Let's talk about the positives. Well, the upside is huge. I mean, first off, the energy output is just insane. One tiny uranium pellet, about the size of the tip of your pinky, has as much energy as a ton of coal. It's incredibly powerful. And here's the big one for our climate. Since you're not burning anything, there are no CO2 emissions at the plant. Zero. Plus, it's reliable. The sun isn't always shining, the wind isn't always blowing, but a nuclear plant can just keep humming along 24/7.
But, and this is a big but, there is, of course, a flip side to this coin. The risks are very real, and they're why this technology is so controversial.
Okay, let's get into the negatives. The first, and probably the biggest headache, is the radioactive waste. The spent fuel rods stay incredibly dangerous for like thousands and thousands of years, and we still haven't figured out a permanent solution for storing it. Then there's the fear of a meltdown. It's rare, for sure, but when it happens, it's absolutely catastrophic. And there are other environmental impacts too, like the hot water discharge affecting local rivers and lakes, and the radioactive waste left over from mining the uranium in the first place.
And really, you only need to say 3 names to understand the public sphere: 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, Fukushima. These 3 accidents, more than anything else, have shaped how we all think about nuclear power. They're burned into our collective memory as proof of what can happen when things go horribly, horribly wrong.
So, with all that in mind, where are we today? What does the future hold for nuclear power? Right now, nuclear power accounts for about 10% of the world's electricity. That's a pretty significant chunk, coming from around 440 reactors spread out across more than 30 countries.
But here's the thing. Most of those reactors, well, they're not spring chickens. The bulk of them were built decades ago. We're talking technology from the 70s and 80s. And now, they're reaching the end of their lifespan.
And that leads us to the big question we all have to face. Do we replace them or do we retire them? It's a huge decision. Do we pour money into new, hopefully safer and more efficient reactor designs? Or do we say, you know what, it's not worth the risk, and go all in on things like solar and wind?
So the future of nuclear really isn't just a science problem. It's a huge balancing act. You've got these massive challenges: what to do with the aging reactors, how to finally solve the waste problem, and how to earn back public trust. But you also have these incredible opportunities: developing new, safer reactor designs and getting that reliable, carbon-free energy we so desperately need. It's all about weighing those pros and cons.
Back in the 1950s, everyone said the future was atomic. Today, the question is, well, is it still? There's no easy answer, but now you understand the science, the technology, and what's at stake. Thanks for giving me 5. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment.